Welcome to the University of Idaho Theater Arts Virtual Rehearsal Hall. We've been meeting here for the past month working on Ian Paul Messersmith's play, Happy Mess, preparing for a series of Zoom readings happening October 9th through the 11th. Today we're taking a break to chat about the development process, the upcoming reading, and the spring production. I'm Ari Burns, the dramaturg and a U of I alumna. I'm here with Happy Mess's director, Dr. Sarah Campbell. She's also on the theater teaching faculty. Our stage manager is Angel Calaz. He's a double major in theater and creative writing. And finally, the playwright, Ian Paul Messersmith. He's an MFA candidate in the dramatic writing program. Please begin with the playwright. Ian, why did you decide to pursue a master's in dramatic writing at the University of Idaho?
So I was working in Knoxville, Tennessee at the Clarence Brown Theater as the assistant production manager. At that time, Rob Casely, who runs the program at the University of Idaho, was having a world premiere of one of his plays called The Open Hand. And I was working really closely with Rob during that production, and I started talking to him about what it would be like to go to grad school, and the conversation evolved to me sending him one of my scripts. And he read the script and thought, you should definitely apply for the program at the University of Idaho. Not because the script was bad, but because he thought that it was good and that I have potential as a playwright. And so we had a couple more conversations and I applied. And so I started to attend the university.
And how did you reach the conclusion that you wanted Happy Mess to be your exit project?
It's more of it's a longer process than just my decision in general. There's a lot of balls in the air with the university and what they wanted to do with their 2020 and 2021 season. And so I submitted the play, and Rob said that this would make a great exit project, and thought that if the committee was going to be looking towards one of my pieces, that this would be the best one to go with. So I pushed this one forward and said that this would be the one that I'd be the most comfortable with moving forward with. I think that the characters and the plot line was in really, really great shape. And so I thought that it would make an amazing project to do, to be able to see this piece come into full fruition.
Okay, cool. And Sarah, Ian's play is not actually being produced this semester. It's the first script in part of a new program the department's got for play development.
Yes, that's correct. So the new name for our sort of new play series, which I'll explain in just a moment, is called First Bite. And so be looking for more information about the First Bite series. But essentially what this program does is it provides opportunities for students in the MFA Dramatic Writing program here at the university to see their plays on stage, and also to give readings to plays that are in production, or in process, so that they have the playwrights can get feedback as they're looking towards a future production. So typically what that First Bite series will, or what it consists of this year, I should say, is a workshop production in the fall. And since we're going to be on Zoom, since we can't have any in-person productions, essentially we're doing a month and a half long workshop on Ian's play, Happy Mess. And then in the spring semester, we will have, depending on the situation with COVID, either an additional, more polished Zoom production of Happy Mess, or if we're able to, then we hope we can have an in-person live production of Happy Mess, which will be produced in the Pocket Playhouse. And then there will be a staged reading of another play, and then a series of 10-minute plays as part of the Northwest Play Festival. So all of those events will be comprised under the label of First Bite, the new play series.
So when you're going into development, how is it different from a rehearsal process?
The process for me is different than the rehearsal process I in a lot of ways, but the biggest way for me personally is that I start the conversations with the director and the dramaturg, and then move forward that way. So there was a lot of edits that happened and adjustments to the script that happened prior to ever starting the workshop. So once we were working on the play over the summer, we made several adjustments to the text, and then we were able to move forward into the process with the cast in the fall. So for me, it definitely starts with the director and the dramaturg, and just talking to them about the play and the structure and what works and what doesn't, and then moving forward from there.
Okay, cool.
So the rehearsal process, at least on Zoom, has been quite a bit different than what I'm used to. This also being, my first time as a stage manager. It's been definitely a very sharp learning curve for everybody involved, but honestly, I think a workshop like this is extremely well suited to Zoom, mostly because we're having lots of really great conversations that are happening about the actual dialogue of the work, and we're not focusing so much on staging yet or anything like that, just focusing on the actual meat and text of the words. And it's been really, really wonderful. And I've honestly had a very great team to work with, and everybody who's been very accommodating, and we haven't had any issues at all with Zoom as our medium of meeting. So it's been interesting but positive overall.
Typically with a lot of productions I've worked on, which hasn't been extensive by any stretch of the imagination, Angel, the stage manager's not usually involved that heavily in the design process that I've seen. Is that has that been anybody else's experience, or?
I was an assistant stage manager, and I had some input. I had a couple times here and there when I remember being asked for my opinion, but this process has been very insistent that everybody involved say something about the work and give their input into it, which I think it's been really, really, it's wonderful. It honestly is. I think only good things can come from getting a vast variety of backgrounds and life experiences and their input on a work, and hearing, the conversations that come out of our workshop have been absolutely phenomenal. And it warms my heart. It makes me feel very happy to have everybody included in the way they have.
Yeah, I think that's a nice process that Zoom has allowed us to really undertake, right? Because so much of the goal of many of these initial workshop productions is to see what the play looks like on its feet, right? Are the entrances and exits feasible, right? What types of set pieces are needed to really communicate what's happening on stage? And I think Ian has and still has those questions, right? But we've been able to dive deep into the characters and their relationships in ways that we would have never gotten a chance to, I think, if we were in person. And going along with that idea is that everyone's opinion about it is important and valid, right? Because this is really a collective and a collaborative process. We all have our own personal experiences that inform our thoughts about and our reactions and experiences of a given work of theater. And so for Ian, it's really, and I can let you speak to that in just a second, but he has been, I think, very excited about all of the feedback, right, that he's received from, everyone on the production team. And it really gives us that opportunity to sort of try the play out for a small test audience, the test audience being the people involved in the production, right? So yeah, it's been a really great experience. And, I think it also offers a great opportunity for Angel in learning stage management in this this very, very, very different realm, which I think will be a valuable part to his career as a stage manager, right? In the future, you can stage manage a Zoom production, then you can do anything. So
Yeah, I will speak to that in just a couple of different ways. So I think that as you're workshopping any piece, as a stage manager, you sit there, you take notes, you dictate for the director, you're the director's right-hand man in so many different ways. And my personal experience professionally as a stage manager, I've worked all over the country working as a stage manager. And so you're right next to the director. You're right there in that moment with that director, but you're never able to actually verbalize your thoughts as an artist. But every stage manager is an artist. And so to kind of mute that person from the conversation is a shame. That's the way the process goes. I think that every artist in any given room has equal footing as an artist in that room and should have a voice to be able to say this doesn't seem right, or this doesn't seem to work. And if you shut that voice down, then you may not find that one little nugget of gold that was sitting in the bed of that river. So it's a beautiful thing to be able to give a voice to a stage manager and let that shine in a lot of different ways. And so I think that it's been really wonderful that Sarah's been open to that idea moving forward as a director, and just being able to give that voice to everybody in the room, and let them know that their opinions matter in this play.
Another part of the process is when we're in the development stage is the work I do as a dramaturg, and I'm when I came in, I usually expect to do some research for the show, but other than that, when I come into a show, I never really know what the director is going to need from me, or the writer, if there happens to be one attached to the project. The previous shows I've done, the writer was not on site. So it's always, every time I work on a project, it's different. This one's not a historical play, so there's no research that needs to be done in that arena. But there's always other stuff. The first thing Ian had me out doing was finding out about how water towers function. So that was a fun kind of warm-up exercise to get started on this. And I also try to play an outside eye on the process and try to ask questions that the audience might ask if when they see the show for the first time, that things they might not understand. Ian, would you talk generally about how the script has changed since the first draft, and as Sarah always likes to say, no spoilers.
No spoilers indeed. So the script has changed several different ways. It used to be a 3-act play, and now it rests really beautifully in a 2-act format. And the characters are deeper, the storyline is very rich, and I think that there's just a lot of twists and turns and layers. And not to misquote Ari in so many ways, but at one point she said, "I just love how I could talk about these characters forever." And so I think that those kind of has been the catalyst of a lot of our conversations, is that we could just kind of talk about this show on and on and on and on, because there's so many layers and there's so much depth to it all. And so I think that what's really happened since that very first draft is that the depth has been laid into it. And the way I kind of approach writing in a lot of ways is I see myself as a farmer rather than an architect. And so I plant seeds, and then I have to go and see what happens when they grow. And so a lot of those crops have grown in this script, and it's been beautiful to see the bounty of the harvest, just to kind of drive that cheesy little metaphor home.
And then Sarah had brought up some of the challenges we've been having to work with COVID-19, especially in the development process. And we were talking about how difficult it was trying to work on a show when we couldn't be together in a room. And then Ian had pointed out that his entire graduate experience has been online. Compared with other shows you've worked on, Ian, can you juxtapose those?
Yeah, I think it's been a really interesting process. I think that there's a lot that you can gain from the emotional affliction when you're in the room with people, but for whatever reason, we're able to feel what people are thinking and what people are doing in that moment on Zoom. And I don't know if it's just that people have been able to adapt so well, or if we've come to the point where we've kind of forgot that the cameras are looking at us, and we just get lost in the moment of the script. And so I think that there's a lot to be said for that as well. I think that the process has been different because we don't get things up on their feet. We don't get to see what would happen if an actor just starts crossing towards the person that they're talking to in a table reading situation. But I think at the same time, we've been able to get amazing things out of the actors, and just through our conversations and rehashing and redoing things, just as you would in any table work situation. And the conversations that we've had with Sarah and with Angel and Ari, just about the blocking, what they see the set looking like, what they see what that scene would look like on stage, really does help me in my process to see if certain things are coming across in the writing.
Did anybody else have any experiences with the process they wanted to share?
I think just for me, in the role of the director, it's really it forced me to realize how much I rely on physicality and body language to not only communicate, like in my communication to everyone else, but also how I read situations on stage, and knowing that I mean, the composition, picturization has a huge impact on the story that's being told, right? And so if we can't really experiment with that, then it becomes almost something different, right? That we're working on. And so what we've really, it's forced us to really, really focus on what is in the text, right? And the relationships between these characters and also their histories. And Ian has drawn these characters. They have a vast, long, complicated, beautiful, scary history together. And yeah, I think everyone will see that the fruits of the labor of this workshop process, because we have been on Zoom, right? So it definitely has limitations, but it allows us to do other things that we would not have gotten the opportunity to do. So
My biggest concern coming into this is because, from my experience, assistant stage managing previously, communication has been a huge thing, and fostering the kind of connection between the actors and the production team where everyone feels comfortable performing the work and also having an opinion on it and exploring new avenues. And my big concern was I wouldn't find that same connection over Zoom, but it's been remarkably easy to still feel a sense of camaraderie and family coming into the rehearsals. I mean, just the readings we've had, everybody's laughing. We keep our cameras on during the readings so that we can see each other's faces, and watching, someone fall out of their chair laughing at a line. It helps build that sense of we're still doing this, we're still a production together. And I was worried about it originally, but it's come to be a very nice place to go for rehearsals, to just see everybody's faces.
I think Angel just nailed it on the head. I really do. I think that it's been such a delight, and it feels more like I'm walking into a room full of friends that I've known for years, rather than strangers from just a couple months ago. And that's a beautiful thing about any production you do, is that you become a family, and that's why people are drawn to theater. Is they're able to find that sense of community and that sense of family through a production. And I think that I agree with everything that Angel just said. I think he said it beautifully.
There's always the big question they always ask in my dramaturgy classes, which is why this play now?
I want to hear,
okay,
this is just like the playwriting thing, right? I want to hear what people have to say about my play before I just give the answer, right?
yeah. I don't know how much I should reveal in terms of subject matter. However, I think what's great about this play is, I mean, Ian says sort of in the introduction, like, or in the preface to the play, like, what is it that sort of makes us happy, and in pursuing our own happiness, do we make others unhappy? What sacrifices do we need to make in our own relationships, or have we made in our own relationships to keep others happy? And was that really the best thing that we should have done, right? And so I think there's like a very human element to this piece, that it really is focusing right on these characters and their relationship, right? For better or for worse, they're sort of all connected through this weird and wonderful line, the string that goes all throughout the play, right? And yeah, I mean, I think we could sort of touch on like political pieces, not political, but topical pieces, I guess. But I don't know how much of that Ian wants to give away, so I don't want to say too much in terms of that. But I think for me, the family is always relevant. It's never going to go away, which is a good thing. We love our family for better or for worse, but what sort of problems do we cause by lack of communication with our own families, by over communicating with our families, right? So yeah, but I mean, I think ultimately we can always use a play about happiness, right? And our search for happiness.
I kind of set out to write a piece that was an exploration of happiness, how we are able to find it, how we're able to sustain it, obtain it, hold on to it. And during that, when I first started writing the piece, what I found was that it's very difficult for some people to hold on and find that happiness. And for other people, they just tend to live in that moment, in that breath of happiness for their entire life. But for most of us, it's somewhere in the middle of trying to find and sustain, and you sacrifice and you make compromises for your own happiness in order to hold on to just a little bit of what you think might make you happy. Um, and some people end up in their lives at the end of their lives with just empty hands, and other ones end up with a full basket. So it's a beautiful exploration of happiness and the different ways that people find it and obtain it. And in some ways it's there's only so much happiness in this world, and so when you get some, you hold on to it and you try really hard to keep it as long as you possibly can, and before someone else will either beg for it, will steal it from you, or take it in their own way. And so um, we just need to continue to try to find ways to be happy and find happiness in life. And that's really what this play is about. And we try to do it in a funny way. I don't want it to be this really deep, dramatic play either. I think that it's really humorous in a lot of ways to be able to find that happiness in their own lives in a humorous way.
Well, I mean, how can you sum up a play better than the playwright? Uh, but yeah, it's just a really wonderful question of what is happy to different people and how do they go about trying to find it or holding on to it. And it's been really interesting, especially with some of the conversations we've been having and people's own, the actors' own individual experience coming into it, where they factor in that happiness and how, compared to maybe how it was originally read in the script, how now the actors interpret their characters going after the happiness. It's been very interesting.
I think that I just asking you, Ari, I mean, what has it been like in this process, working on a new play and developing as a dramaturg? What are your thoughts and opinions on the piece? Do you have an answer also to the why this play now in your own words?
Well, I think, as you guys know, I get kind of scatterbrained and like chasing random thoughts. So especially with the COVID-19 lockdowns and stuff, I've been, and with this script, I've been very ruminative about what is happiness, and what do we really need to make ourselves happy. And since we've been locked down in our homes, there's been a lot of time to think about that, and the script kind of just brings that home even more. What is it stuff that you personally need, or is it what you give to other people, or a combination of the two? So I find it a good play for our times. So I think that's why this play now. I like developing new plays anyway. I think plays are fascinating and they're full of surprises. So this one's challenging because the research subjects aren't immediately obvious, and it's a script in development. So every day I come in, I learn something new. So that's always really great, and I'm always excited to sit through rehearsal and see what discoveries the company comes up with. What are your favorite birthday cake flavors? Because this play ends in a birthday cake party.
Oh man, this is such a tough question. See, I don't know. Someone else go.
And it's not one that I ever had for my birthday, but one I made for my best friend when she turned 16. It is a matcha birthday cake with like a strawberry buttercream frosting. Perfect. Perfect.
So I have sort of two. The first is yellow cake with chocolate icing. It's the best combo. And something that my mom used to make when we were kids, we would always have, well, for my birthday would always have yellow cake, chocolate icing, and then something called Oreo ice cream cookie cake. And it's essentially like cookies and cream ice cream, but it's in a sheet cake pan. So you crush the Oreos, and then you melt the ice cream, mix it all together, and then freeze it, and it's delicious.
Wow. That sounds epic. Marzipan.
Is that really your answer?
Marzipan?
Marzipan.
I can't do marzipan. I can't do it. Yeah.
No,
I do also enjoy yellow cake with chocolate frosting. However, there has to be a topping. So you take M&Ms and you put them on top, but you have to put them with the M&M M facing up, and they all have to be facing in rows.
and no green ones?
No, green ones, of course, but
Okay.
they all have to be facing up, and you have to have equal rows. So when you cut the cake, everyone has an equal amount of M&Ms.
Wow.
That's a tough birthday cake to make.